What's up guys, TotalJophes coming at you with a video about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, for those of you who don't know, Final Fantasy VII was a game released by Squaresoft back in 1997. And it followed a pretty cool story, from my opinion. It followed a guy named Cloud as he journeyed across the planet of Gaia to stop a really evil guy named Sephiroth, which I'm sure all of you guys know about, not to mention the super powerful Shinra Company. Final Fantasy VII was your typical turn-based JRPG. But at the same time, it did have a few things that set it away from a lot of the other RPGs at the time. For instance, it had the materia system, a system that I personally think that a lot of other people really think was amazing. Not to give you a really explanatory summary, but shortened version, it let you customize every single spell you got to use, and it had a lot of different abilities that it could give you at the same time. It usually depended on your weapons and your armor, and you could slot materia into each one. Ultimately, it turned out to make your characters into total powerhouse badasses if you did it right. Final Fantasy VII, for a lot of people, not myself included, but a lot of other people in the world, was a gateway into the JRPG genre. And that's one of the reasons why people love it so much. For a lot of people, that was their very first JRPG, or that was the game that got them into JRPGs and turned them into JRPG fans. And that's the reason why a lot of people really want Final Fantasy VII Remade. Of course, there are various other reasons. A lot of people, it's not just nostalgia, but it is just the fact that they really think it is an amazing game. Not my personal favorite Final Fantasy, but I do have to say that 7 is probably pretty high up there. Damn good game, good story, good characters, good gameplay, perfect. Earlier this year at E3 2015, Square Enix announced that they were actually remaking 7, something that people had wanted for years. Something that I myself couldn't believe, honestly. When they showed that trailer, I lost my shit. I could not believe that they were actually remaking it, even though they spent so much time saying they were never going to do that. Now, along with the hype, of course, a lot of people are worried about whether or not Square Enix can actually do this justice. This was a damn near perfect game when they came out with it, at least in a lot of people's opinions. So people aren't entirely sure if Square Enix is really going to manage to capture the original magic that the original game had. Now, I personally think it's doable, but it's also possible that they could really screw up, and that's what this video is all about. And when they first showcased the 7 Remake's trailer, already you could tell the graphics. That was something that I'm excited about, that I'm sure a lot of other people are too. I mean, 7 came out in 1997. That was a long time ago. Graphics back then, well, let me put it this way, it was the very first Final Fantasy that didn't have 2D graphics. So naturally, the first graphics that weren't 2D weren't all that amazing. But now, seeing that shit in HD, oh, it was beautiful. Then came when Square Enix probably released a fairly controversial trailer, where it actually showcased a lot of 7 Remake's gameplay. Now, one thing that people have a general consensus on is it definitely looks like that they're letting you explore a lot more of the world. Which, I mean, I doubt anybody's going to argue with. Being able to actually hands-on go out there with these new and improved graphics and see everything, that's going to be cool. But then at the same time, there was something that a lot of people weren't quite sure how to feel about, which is the new gameplay. Now, given that back then, turn-based RPGs were, I mean, everyday, commonplace. They were everywhere. But these days, not so much. There are some here and there, but mainly a lot of people consider that outdated. Me personally, it's kind of a give-or-take thing. It could turn out to be really good. It could turn out to be kind of shitty. It really just depends on the developer and the game. But Square Enix decided to change Final Fantasy VII and give it a new action RPG battle system. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a fan of. I really love action RPGs. And just a lot of action-based games in general. Like, it gave me a really good Kingdom Hearts, Devil May Cry kind of feel, and those are games that I absolutely love. And I gotta say, I mean, I'm not against bringing Final Fantasy VII into the new generation and giving it a new kind of gameplay. I think that that's actually a pretty good change. Could they mess it up? Yeah, they really could. But Square Enix has shown time and time again that they can make that work. I mean, like I said, look at Kingdom Hearts. That game is amazing. Another one of my favorite series. So if the same company is behind this as Kingdom Hearts, I can't be too pissed about it. Of course, then there's Square Enix coming out and saying that this game was going to be released in episodes. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too keen on that. At the same time, I could understand why. They did say that it's because they wouldn't really be able to fit the entire thing into one release. I get that, but in a perfect world, I would see that in one release on one game coming out all at the same time. But, as Square Enix said, it's just not possible. This episodic release thing, I could see this working one of two ways. Either they could do it right, they could release it fairly regularly, and they could give you a decent amount of stuff to do in each one, and each episode builds off the last. Think kind of like Telltale's The Walking Dead. That had an episodic release, but it actually worked really well for it. But then there's also, they could screw it up. They could wait way too long between releases, it could differ way too much, you could not be able to go back to the previous content. I think their episodic release needs to build up, kind of like Lego blocks, you know? It just gets bigger and bigger with each release. They do that, and it ultimately culminates in a really big, really amazing game, that could work out really well. Not to mention, when it comes to the episodic releases, I kind of see another upside to this. That's a way that they could fit a lot more into it. I mean, naturally, with the remake, we kind of assume that they're going to be putting a lot more into it. But specifically, they could say, take this for instance, an episode centering on the Turks, where you get to play as the Turks. That would be really cool, and that's something they could do with the episodic release. Or even not the Turks, even, somebody else, somewhere else. Heck, they could have flashbacks into Zack's time, for all we know. Either way, with these episodic releases, it could work, once again, if they don't mess up. And I'm really hoping they don't mess up. Now here's some things that I'm really looking forward to in it. For one, obviously, I mentioned this earlier, actually being able to go out and see the world of Final Fantasy VII in these new, rich HD graphics, actually being able to go everywhere, see everything with all of these new graphics. I mean, imagine places like, Midgar, for instance. They showed a little bit of that. But then, so many other amazing places you can go. Junon, for instance, I want to see that canon in HD. I want to see Costa del Sol. I want to see, the North Cave. Ooh, that's going to be cool. There's a lot of places that they can make really trippy looking in these new graphics, and I'm really looking forward to that. Not to mention, they can always add in new things, new buildings you can go into, new side quests you can have. With graphics like this, that opens up the world a lot. Something else that I really want to see in this, that the original 7 kinda had, kinda didn't, is really making each character completely and totally different from one another, fitting whatever gameplay style that you really want to go after. Like, for instance, the original 7, they had their unique limit breaks, they had different stats, they had different equipments. But other than that, I mean, they could all have the same spells, they more or less felt mostly the same. Not completely, but mostly. However, now that we've got this remake coming out, that's an opportunity to really make each character feel completely different from each other. This new battle system they're having? I mean, Cloud, he looks badass. He could fight like some sort of charging, damage-dealing beast. And then there's Barret, that showed off a little bit of him, where, you're standing back more, shooting with the gun, firing all sorts of magic projectiles and shit. And then I want to see something like Tifa getting some sort of really badass combo system or something. I mean, like I said, with these new gameplay mechanics, they could really make each and every character feel completely different from one another. I personally am looking forward to Vincent. He is my favorite character. And then, of course, something that I'm really looking forward to, that a lot of hardcore Final Fantasy fans probably are, is the music. The remaking of all the musics. Now, Uematsu said that he wasn't coming back, as far as I saw. But at the same time, I mean, he did already help make the music that exists. I mean, after that, all you have to do is just modernize it. So, I don't really feel like they're going to have much of an opportunity to really screw that up. They could, don't get me wrong, but honestly, I see them making the music in that game, which had an amazing soundtrack. I see them making that even bigger and better and sounding way more amazing. Okay, now here's something else that I'm really looking forward to. With this remake, with the new graphics, with the full voice acting, the cutscenes. they're going to be pretty freaking cool. Not to mention, they're probably going to have a lot more of them. I mean, we'll be able to get to see a lot of things in really good graphics. Like, take, for instance, the bombing of the first reactor in the game. Most of it was played out just with the basic character models and text with no voices. Now imagine that played out with a cinematic cutscene and a lot of voice acting. That could turn out to be really cool. Once again, they could screw it up, but I think it would be kind of difficult to. I think they have an opportunity to make that really, really good. Now here's something I have to say. Just probably the most important thing. With this remake, something that I honestly am worried about, that I'm sure a lot of people are, is I don't want them to take anything out. The original game, it was weird. I'm gonna say that first and foremost. It was fucking weird. But it was really cool, and it had its own unique little charm that way. And if they take any little bit of that out, I just don't think it'll be the same game. Now granted, I believe, as far as I remember, they said a few times that they're not gonna try to take anything out, that they're gonna try to put at least most, if not all of it, in. If I remember correctly, I do think they said that they were going to keep Don Corneo and Wall Market and Cloud's cross-dressing. And that's something I was honestly worried that they might take out. But honestly, so far, it seems as if they're going to at least try to keep mostly everything in. So we'll have to wait and see some more, but as long as they don't take anything out, then my hopes are pretty high for this. And then, of course, brings me to my last little point here. This remake gives them the opportunity to add so much more. New abilities, new weapons, new story bits, new side quests, heck, maybe even new characters, who knows? The possibilities are endless in this. I mean, considering the technology that we have these days compared to when we did back in '97, there's a lot of room to add a lot of cool new stuff, and I'm really looking forward to see what they're going to add. Already, they did say that they were going to try and make Cloud's hallucinations mean more, and do a little bit more background on Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, some not-so-important side characters that you only really know too much about in the beginning of the game. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that could be really cool. Even if they mess everything else up in the game, if they at least add more story, more lore, more to the characters and everything, I can't feel completely gypped about that. So there you have it, guys. There's pretty much all my thoughts about the 7 Remake. I've got a few more things here and there, but then I'm mainly trying to wait until I get some more information before I just kind of spat out there and look like an idiot. So, I want to know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below, like, subscribe, so on and so forth. You know the drill. So, until next time, stay pretty, my buddies.